celebration of the National Women's Month, we are very privileged and honored to have with us a highly accomplished guest. Czekaina Esrah Rapanot, or Shine, is a graduate of Communication Research from the UP College of Mass Communication and is currently a master's student of Philippine Studies, major in Society and Culture at the UP Asian Center. She has worked under several projects as a full-time research assistant at the UPCMC Department of Communication Research and is now also a part-time lecturer at the college. Let's all welcome Ms. Shine Rapanot.
Hi,
Hello,
good evening.
Shine.
Hello. Medyo
Good
may nerves ako, so
evening.
pasensya na.
Actually, wag kang kabahan. Tayo-tayo lang to.
Oo, tayo-tayo lang
Parang,
'to.
oo. So, kamusta ka naman? What keeps you busy these
Sige.
days?
Ay, nako, checking outputs keeps me busy these days. Kasi since online yung setup, we rely a lot on student outputs talaga. Since mahirap iba yung feel kapag online classroom. So, iba siya sa recitation halimbawa. So talagang output galore ang mga klase ngayon.
So, you mentioned that you haven't worked outside CMC. So, after graduation, dumiretso ka ba agad sa teaching? And how was your deciding process?
So, nung undergrad ako, hindi talaga ako sure kung ano yung gusto kong gawin. But I was so inspired lang talaga ng mga naging profs ko. So, as I got to my thesis stage, no, I was very honored to do my thesis under Dr. Vileda Omali. And yun, while I was doing my thesis, I realized na, this is where I would want to contribute. So, yun, nag-decide ako or parang nag-express ako ng interest to teach. Pero after graduation, I really started out as a research assistant. So, I only started teaching last semester. So, second semester ko pala ngayon actually.
So, for those who don't know, what is the typical day for a research assistant? Like, ano ba yung mga pinagkakaabalahan nyo? Ano ba yung mga nire-research nyo? Can you briefly explain that to us?
Sige. So, since project-based ito, so depende talaga sa nature ng project na meron ka. But since I'm with the Department of Communication Research sa UPCMC, I would do, tawag dito, projects related to the department, improving our academic program. So, yun yung madalas kong ginagawa. Alongside, if the professors would have commissioned research, I would also be tagged along in some of them. So, I would also participate. Tapos, typical day, actually, it's weird. It's output-based. So, it's not an 8 to 5 or something. So, for as long as you get the work done, you're good. Which is, kaya nung nag work from home setup, kahit papaano, hindi naman ganun kalaki yung adjustment in terms of tawag dito, time spent for work kasi talagang output-based siya. Nakakamiss lang yung feel ng department, no? Yung office, yung tawanan and everything.
Agree. Pero, I mean, we're looking forward, diba, to the new normal and we're expecting, things to kind of fall back to how they were before the pandemic. And
Yeah.
having said that, I know that one of the issues that's closest to your heart is really women's rights. And we were undergrads in UP when Duterte came to power. So, in your opinion, no, what is the most damaging legacy of the Duterte administration on women's rights?
Napakabigat na tanong at honestly, no, hirap siya isipin, especially as a woman myself. Na, you would look at the articles, you would look at ano na namang bago, ano na namang balita tungkol sa issue na ito. But I think the misogyny in the speech, malaki siya coming from communication myself, misogynist speech from a national leader can encourage misogynist behaviors kasi people look up to you eh. Diba? People would look up to you and ito yung ginagamit kumbaga na framing nung kanyang image na, ay kasi kumukonekta sa masa, ganito ang sense of humor, ganito ang paraan ng pananalita. But you see, to use this as a reason, or not even a reason, an excuse, no, to condone misogynist character. I think that's one of the most damaging things about Duterte. And yung kanyang constant rape jokes and sexist remarks, no, it normalizes that misogynist behavior, and it hasn't been great, no, to be a woman during this time talaga.
Uh, just to draw on your background on communications, no, why do you think this type of behavior and rhetoric still resonates with so many fellow Filipinos? Kasi if you would look at it, Duterte still maintains or was still able to maintain his popularity as a president.
Hmm. That's a multi-layered question, to be honest. Pero paano ba? So, let's start with, I think, the most talagang ang magiging starting point dito, sasabihin natin, ay, yung culture natin, factor yan, kinalakihan natin na ganito, talagang warrior class ang mga lalaki and everything. Women would have roles, yun yung character ng society natin. You would have assigned roles to different people, and roles would be gendered, okay? But I think um, communication is powerful. Drawing from one of the first lessons in Intro to Com and Media, you have different models of communication. One of the main models here that we have is transmission, where it's very basic in linear. You have a source, you have a message that goes through a channel, and then you have a receiver of the message. But then you also have a more cultural view of communication, the ritual view, where communication is defined as a process that can produce and transform culture through the creation of shared meanings. So itong creation of shared meanings na ito, na fina-facilitate ng ating interactions, ito yung nagre-reinforce din ng mga paniniwala na meron tayo. So I think, itong paulit-ulit na yung ganitong pananalita at yung paulit-ulit na rhetoric na natatanggap natin from a national leader na nakikita natin pala sa kanya, it would reinforce that misogynist view that we have. Of course, we're not saying na at parang ano siya, no? Yung tinatawag natin na magic bullet na dahil yun yung nakita natin, eh yun na yung nangyayari. The popularity of it, the conversations that we would have around it, it's part of what reinforces this culture.
Yes, I really could not agree more with what Miss Shine said. And it's sad na parang yung iba, gina-justify pa saying na, ay kasi Bisaya siya kaya ganyan. And as a fellow Bisayan, it's offending. We're not like that. No, I do not claim you. Pero for you po, Miss Shine, what are the most pressing issues on gender and human rights that the next president must really attend to?
Okay, so for this question, gender and human rights, di ba? You would think gender, I think hindi ko alam, parang may sakit yung ibang agencies na pag sinabing gender ay talagang gender yung kanilang tinitignan na identity and everything. That's one facet of it. For me, it's always multifaceted. No, ang gender ay issue na hindi nahihiwalay sa class. Ang gender ay issue na hindi nahihiwalay, no, sa realidad ng pamumuhay ng tao. So for me, the most pressing issues on gender and human rights would always have a political, an economic, and a cultural aspect. No, sa political, we have representation in government. The gender bias within law enforcement. Kasi we have legislation on gender rights, on women. Pero kamusta yung implementation? No, kamusta yung law enforcement? Second, economic. We need to promote economic empowerment, not just for women, but for LGBTQ plus, no, community. We have workplace rights and pay gaps. We need to address that. And for example, parental leaves. No, usually when we look at rules or gender-based policies oftentimes it's directed for women. Pero kung titignan natin, no, bawa parental leave, parents, hindi lang naman isang tao 'yan, 'di ba? So kailangan ay tignan natin siya from both ends. Tapos pagdating sa economic aspect kasi nandiyan din yung care work, yung aspect ng care work na kahit nandiyan yung opportunities, for example, for women to participate in the economic or in the labor force, maraming factors na maaring magpabagal o um, I wouldn't want to say hindrance ano, pero maraming factors na maaring mag-cause sa kanya na hindi maabot yung opportunities na meron. Kahit sabihin pa natin na ayan na nasa harap mo na mag-a-apply ka na lang and everything, pero hindi eh. What if when women get married, when women have children, what are the mechanisms in place that would assure no that they can get those equal chances pa rin, those opportunities na hindi nila nile-let go yung hindi siya one or the other. Yung gano'n. Tapos cultural, I think the aspect of culture is really important. Addressing gender bias through progressive education and information initiatives. I think um, well, it's not right. I do believe that it's not right to just antagonize our culture for what it is. To na, kailangan natin maging progressive kasi yung initial na kultura na meron tayo ay sabihin natin backward or something. I don't believe culture is backward. It's just that perhaps we need to have a reinterpretation of it. No, perhaps we need to have a new understanding of it. So I think yon, political, economic, and cultural issues, yun yung kailangan i-address ng ating next president.
Ayan, oo nga po, parang just to echo what you said, Miss Shine, especially dun sa women with careers, um, it's really hard, especially for women na pregnant o kaya naman who just had a child. It's hard for us when we take off time from work. It's like women are perceived less because of their ability to, produce children, to give birth. So, kahit na it seems like fair game, yung kapag ka nag apply ka, it's a fair opportunity. But most of the time, out of 10 applicants, if 5 are men and 5 are women, most likely, iilan lang yung babaeng matatanggap. And most of the time, mas maraming lalaki yung natatanggap. Because, yun nga, yung mga kahit na privilege and benefits ng babae yun, parang it's like being taken against us. I mean, siguro I'm just like that, pero I don't know. It's just me.
I don't think it's just you. I think it's a problem that we really should address. Also, isa pa pala na gusto kong ipasok sa usapin na ito, no, yung ating view of empowerment. Kasi oftentimes, this is from my, I don't know, from my own personal observation. You would think of an empowered woman, for example, as a working woman. Diba? That's the new woman, super mommy. Diba? You have work and then you have family. I was involved recently in a study on gender representation in advertisements. And we found na normative pa rin siya in terms of the roles they're expected to take, especially at home. And it's a double burden kasi superwoman ka na nga, may trabaho ka na nga, expected ka pa maging super mommy. So kahit papaano, no, it's still damaging to women to a certain extent. So for me, empowerment is about choice. Parang for me, baka ang problema ay yung tingin natin sa mga activities at sa mga attributes na oftenly associated with women. Yung tingin natin sa care work, yung tingin natin sa domestic work, yung tingin natin sa housework, 'di ba? Kailangan natin siyang i-dignify because we cannot force women into molds. If you say that an empowered woman is a working woman, then that's no different from the inherent sexist bias that we have, that we hold against them now. So we should dignify, I think, for me yun yung isang kailangan i-address. No? Ano ba yung tingin natin sa empowerment talaga?
Completely agree. I think we have also to reassess that the way that we view what is an empowered woman ba? Is it a woman who has a college degree, a woman who has a 9 to 5 job, or what you said nga na is it a woman who maybe a housewife, 'di ba? We have to dignify those types of labor as well. So having said that, the next president would really have a tall order on fixing so many issues on gender and human rights. And among the presidential candidates, 'di ba? Marami talaga nakatingin sa lone woman candidate natin, which is VP Leni. And as a kakampake myself, talagang sinusubaybayan ko yung stance niya on certain issues. Well, on a lot of issues, but most importantly on issues that concern gender and human rights. And I guess one of her most, I would say, controversial stand was her stand on abortion, di ba? She is against abortion, although she is open to talks about it. So, in your opinion, Miss Shine, do you think it's time for the Philippines to move forward in terms of abortion issue?
For abortion, definitely. I think that any person with a body that can carry a pregnancy should have an opportunity to choose and have a chance to terminate the pregnancy because it's their body. And just because you wouldn't want to have it on yourself doesn't mean you should, use your voice to say that other people don't deserve that right. Yun yung isa sa mga ano eh. Ah, madalas kasi ito mapapansin natin sa ibang mga kandidato ano, very imposing na hindi ako naniniwala diyan so I don't agree with it. I think we should be wary of candidates, not just in the national positions, for any position. We should be wary of candidates that impose their belief. And let's address the elephant in the room. We are a Christian majority country. Religion is a very much salient factor in our politics. But I think religion shouldn't get in the way. Kasi we're not 100% Christian, di ba? Not all of your constituents would have the same belief as you. So, um, kagaya nga nung isang quote ni VP Lenny in one of the debates, I think parang sabi niya, if I'm gonna be president, I'm not just gonna be president of Catholics. So that's why we should be open to the consultations, to all the lobbying. Kasi nga, hindi, I'm very wary of candidates that would let their faith direct their decisions. Kasi hindi talaga lahat tayo Christian eh. So, hindi talaga natin pwedeng ipilit yon. Paano na lang yung constituents natin na hindi aligned yung paniniwala sa ating personal na paniniwala. I think dapat magkahiwalay talaga yon.
Same, same. Parang, especially ako, babae ako, and I've already had 2 kids. Ang stand ko talaga when it comes to abortion, if you don't have a uterus, you don't have a say. Para sa akin. Kasi, hindi, parang cringy yung defense nung iba na anti-abortion or really against it na choice mo din namang mangyari yun eh. But what if it's not? 'Di ba? Hindi naman din ganun kagaling yung justice
Yes.
system dito sa atin. What about the rape victims? So,
Yes.
siguro, I think what we should look into when it comes to abortion would be yung under circumstance. But it would be better if everyone would be given a choice to proceed with the pregnancy or not. Kasi may madalas nasa babae ang burden eh. Diba? They don't have
Yes.
the choice but to continue. But yung partner nila, kapag ka umalis na lang yan, nakipaghiwalay, biglang nag-disappear, wala naiwan na sa babae yung responsibility. And that's totally unfair, di ba? You just can't simply bail out on a kid, tapos you
Mhm.
would protest on continuing it. And just take a look doon sa mga
Mhm.
batang nasa orphanage, yung mga nagugutom sa kalsada, sa lansangan. Parang what chance did they have?
So from one hot button issue to another, how about the current marriage annulment process? I think it still remains inaccessible to so many women, especially the underprivileged women or those who have no access to it. Um, One of the hot button issues in the upcoming elections is really passing a divorce law. And so many candidates, VP Leni herself does not favor a divorce law. She said that there's already an annulment law, so we should just maybe amend parts of it so it can be more accessible to women. What is your take on that?
Okay, first of all, same logic with abortion. Divorce is something that if you don't want to have it for yourself, doesn't mean other people shouldn't have that right. However, um, I believe our friends in the legal field can inform us more about this, ano. Pero iba kasi yung implications ng divorce sa annulment. Like annulment is really nullifying the marriage. If I understand it correctly, again, I would be glad to be more informed about this. But if I understand it correctly, it nullifies the marriage. Parang it didn't happen. Personally, medyo ano yun, medyo weird siya for me. Parang I would rather acknowledge that this happened, but I don't want it anymore. However, that is the system, the process that we currently have. And I think what VP Leni ang sinasandigan niya ay yung very recent Supreme Court decision. Was it a Supreme Court decision or a ruling that kumbaga makes it more accessible nga to the underprivileged na yung psychological incapacity na nire-require nung sistema ay hindi naman necessarily mental disorder. It's not necessarily medical. Yun yung mga adjustments na nangyari doon sa issue. But again, what I am grateful for about VP Leni is that she's very much open um to the talks. No, she's very much open to arguments and consultations. Yun yung gusto mong marinig eh. Yun yung gusto mong marinig kahit hindi ka nag-a-agree, kahit hindi ka sumasang-ayon sa isang tao, yun lang marinig mo sa kanya na willing siyang makinig sa'yo. Yun, that is what matters. At this point, I do not agree with her, but there is that leeway that she will listen, and we do hope that she will if she gets the seat.
Agree, super agree. And I think parang among the candidates, she's really the one who has shown a willingness to listen to so many sectors. For example, Manny Pacquiao, di ba? Parang he's very intent on really pursuing what the Bible says, for example. Having said that, no, one of
Yes.
his controversial stance then was on same-sex marriage, na parang he would never be in favor of it. And President Duterte, during his time as a presidential candidate, he was supportive of same-sex marriage. He was saying na I will pass it, I will support it. Pero when he became president, biglang nagbago yung tono, biglang he won't support it, which was very alarming and very very weird considering na hindi naman sila they weren't in good terms with the church, di ba? There were a lot of times na he and so many church officials got into some kind of conflict over his deadly war on drugs. So, in your opinion, Miss Shine, why do you think the Philippines is still having a hard time passing or making headway on LGBT issues, specifically marriage equality?
Feeling ko, I think I've tried talking about this with friends in law school and things like that. I think ang dami kasing kailangang kabakahin. Kailangan mong baguhin. I think it's the family code that still articulates it as man and woman or man and wife or something like that. So, ang dami kailangang kabakahin. Hindi lang siya isang Republic Act, hindi lang siya isang isang labihan, isang pirmahan na proseso. Marami kang kailangan baguhin sa batas para mas maging gender neutral yung articulation pagdating sa marriage and parenthood. Yun yun, dun I think, dun natin talaga kailangan ng maraming advocate sa ating gobyerno, maraming advocate sa ating Congress to start, no? Para ma-lobby yung mga pagbabago na ito. That's the political part of it. And then the next, of course, is cultural. So, kailangan natin ng mas malalim pa na understanding, na hindi lahat ng pamilya iisa ang itsura, o hindi lahat ng sets of parents ay iisa ang itsura. Kailangan nating mas maunawaan pa yon. So, again, progressive ano 'no, sa edukasyon. Hindi naman natin pinipilit, eh, 'di ba? Kung ayaw mong kung hindi ka agree sa, two people of the same sex getting together, then don't get into that kind of relationship. But just because you won't get into that kind of relationship doesn't mean other people don't deserve to be happy. With regards to same-sex marriage and civil union, I think na VP Leni and some other candidates are for civil union but not same-sex marriage, because marriage implies getting married in the church. So dun pa mas maraming issue. Pero I think civil union would be a good start, especially that we are after civil rights. We are after the joint rights of a married couple. So I think one step is better than none. So doon na tayo sa magmo-move tayo kahit papano, at let's work from there. At least for me, that's a good way to start.
Pero very quick side comment lang, no? Very recently, parang Sara Duterte announced that she is a part of the LGBTQ sector. It's becoming interesting to see that so many candidates, especially in times of election season, talagang they come out supporting LGBT rights. Pero once they're in the position, bigla nagbabacktrack na parang, um, wait lang, yung mga pinangako ko, sandali lang. I remember Amy Marcos in 2019 election. She was saying na maghalal ng tunay na bakla sa Senado, and she was branding herself as a babaeng bakla. Pero when time came na she was being asked on her opinion about, for example, President Duterte pardoning the U.S. Marine who murdered Jennifer Laude, she was nowhere to be found. So many representatives in the Congress or in the Senate would be mum on these issues. Pero tuwing campaign season, talagang nililigawan yung LGBT sector, di ba?
Consistency talaga ang kailangan nating tignan sa mga kandidato, lalo na kapag naging, opisyal na sila. So yun yung parang bakit napaka-tokenistic nung kanilang stances, bakit napaka-tokenistic ng kanilang regard. I think, it's a big, big red flag when you hear someone say, "Oh, I respect you and your identity," but then you don't agree with steps that would forward their rights. I think that's a very big red flag.
Parang every time na magkakaroon ng like campaign period or election season, yung mga candidates natin or maybe some of them, just like yung kay President Duterte saying that he will support same-sex marriage, promising that, and then pagka sila na yung nakaupo, parang, psych, joke lang yon naniwala naman kayo. Parang ganun lagi yung nangyayari eh. Nakakaloka. Pero, for you po, Miss Shine, since lone candidate nga natin, si VP Leni, yung gender niya, like being a woman, is it gonna be hurtful or beneficial to her presidential campaign?
It depends on your audience. Depende kung sino tumatanggap ng mensahe. Kasi hindi mo maiiwasan na meron kang demographic na nandun sila sa babae kasi eh. 'Di ba? Hindi yan magaling na leader, hindi yan pang-gobyerno. Duterte himself said that the presidency is not for a woman. It's not for a woman to do. So hindi mo maiiwasan na may ganong tao sa iyong audience. Pero um, may mga tao din naman who would take babae kasi as the strength. Na now we change our rhetoric. Now we change the image of what a leader should be. That a leader should be caring. A leader should be oriented towards, mas affectionate, kumbaga, yung image. In terms of it hurting or benefiting the campaign, I don't really have data on that. It's against my nature. But if I were to make assumptions on it, it goes both ways. It goes both ways. But I do think that kailangan paigtingin pa yung yung kampanyang ito, no? Kung gusto natin na mag-work itong care rhetoric ni VP Leni. Kasi hindi natin maitatanggi na meron pa rin parte ng ating demographic, significant part of our demographic that won't be convinced on the sole basis of care and ano. Kasi nga culturally meron pa tayong deep-seated beliefs about it. So, yun, I think and I hope no na may mas drastic pang maganap sa kampanyang ito para mas mag-work siya at mas ma-reach niya yung parte na yun ng populasyon natin na hindi pa ganun ka-convinced.
Oo nga. Parang every time that I see comments about VP Leni's campaign na sinasabing, ay kasi babae, mahina yan, or something like that, parang it gets me really wondering na wala ba kayo mga nanay? Parang, haven't you seen the strengths of your mother? 'Di ba? Parang, how is she any different? That is something that I don't really get.
Yeah.
Parang tayo as Filipinos, we're really overprotective when it comes to our mothers, 'di ba? And then we get to say na because babae si VP Leni, mahina na siya. Something that really boggles my mind.
'Di ba? Para bang nakalimutan nila na babae ang nagluwal sa'yo. Pero bakit ganyan ang tingin mo sa mga babae? I honestly just to ano no, um just to share with you, ang hirap maging babae ngayon talaga. Ang hirap talaga kasi alam mo yun, parang 'di ba wala na akong I'm pretty sure Bella would also have tawag dito, experiences like this. I would have one time nagda-drive ako, I was trying to get through a very narrow space and
Mm-mm.
the the tambays were kind of helping me and they were like, tumabi kayo, babae kasi yung nagda-drive. Hindi siya, alam mo yun, the implication, hindi siya
Parang,
masyadong
oo.
magaling.
Oo.
And, you know,
Annoying.
it's so annoying. Parang gusto mong sagutin, gusto mong sumagot, pero ang hirap niya. Also, being unsafe in public spaces.
True.
What's most bothersome to me, honestly, was that I've been I've been groped by a child, and it's a boy. It's not even a teenage boy. It's a boy, like 10 to 11 years old, and like if
Mm-mm.
this kid if number one, if I break his nose, that's child
Na,
ano, it's child
yeah.
abuse. Diba? So
Oo.
I can't. But the thing is, if this child has the gall to do that to an adult female, what culture are we inculcating? Diba? Yun yung
True.
pinaka nakaka-bother for me tungkol sa rhetoric na ito. Hindi lang to tungkol sa atin, tungkol ito sa mga bata.
Mm. Totoo, totoo. And ako kasi po, Miss Shine, I already have two kids. So, yung youngest ko po is boy siya. And then, I'm not sure if it's because ang tagal niyang na-breastfeed that every time, kahit magkatabi kami, bigla niya na lang akong hahawakan, ganyan. So, I make it a point na kahit bata pa siya, I make it a point to let him know na it's not right. Not
Yes.
because we are related or we're close. Doesn't give you the right to touch me if I do not give you my consent. So
Yes.
eventually parang natututo na siya na bago niya ako hawakan, he would ask me, Mama, is it okay if I hug you? Yung mga ganon, parang kailangan kasi bata pa lang tinuturo na natin yung mga ganon para somehow, I guess, little by little, nababago natin yung kultura. Kasi kanina pa ba
Yes.
magsisimula yun kundi sa atin din?
I agree. I don't have children of my own, but I have nephews, and yeah, I think that's something we really can start no in terms of building values. No,
Mm.
na tama.
Oo. Kasi yung iba parang yun dun po sa example ninyo, sa nangyari sa inyo. So I know some people na kapag ka na-witness yun, they would just laugh at it.
Yes.
And if you do, you're just encouraging the behavior eh. You're not calling it out. So ako talaga, I make it a point na to let my child know that's not right.
Yeah.
Kailangan bata pa lang, they know kung ano na yung concept of consent, yung mga
Mhm.
ganyang bagay, para madala din nila paglaki nila, maging innate na sa kanila.
Yeah, now that you've mentioned it, ano 'no, makikita rin natin kung paano kasi magci-circle back lang ako dun sa, first topic natin which is the Duterte's misogynist speech, and how Malacanang has covered it up, and has they've been making excuses for it, saying that, oh, it's a joke. But the thing is, when you keep dismissing it as a joke, it's as if dismissing our rights as a joke. Our right to feel safe, our right to be respected. And it shouldn't even be on the basis of sex. People should respect other people. I think for me, yun kasi yung core value eh. Pero alam mo yun, when you dismiss it as a laughing matter na ganyan talaga siya, ganyan yung sense of humor niya. We are normalizing the culture that is damaging to both sexes kasi um, while you are encouraging the perpetration of violence, you are encouraging the growth of perpetrators. So hindi matatapos yung issue na kailangan nating i-address.
Think it also really highlights the fact that we really need leaders who are decent, basic qualifications na decente and may respeto yung rights ng kababaihan at syempre human rights din. And just to piggyback on what you said a while ago, no, Miss Shine, there's still a significant part of our demographics who don't really believe that women can lead. Pero if you would look at their history, we've already had two female presidents while other countries haven't even had a single female president or a female leader. Having said that, there's still, I guess, double standards on how we perceive a strong woman leader. Kasi for example,
Yeah.
I don't think Miriam Defensor Santiago received criticisms that she was a weak leader or she wasn't strong, 'di ba? Kasi she was a certain kind of woman. She was a firebrand. She was she really wouldn't take any, parang any type of joke or parang ganun. So do you think it also a fact nagiging factor ba yung how VP Leni presents herself as parang caring, hindi
Mhm.
masyadong nag-answer back sa mga bashing, ganun.
Mhm. Siguro dito papasok yung sinasabi ko kanina na ang issue ba natin ay sex lang talaga o baka ang issue natin ay femininity in its entirety. Everything related to femininity, we perceive it as weak. We perceive it um, you know, as not an advantage. And I think itong pag-present ni VP Lenny sa kanyang sarili, as a caring, motherly figure, again, it's an advantage in many facets, in many ways. It's definitely a different take on what Duterte has been. It's a different take on what our previous 6 years has been, no, under Duterte. Pero again, makikita natin sa sitwasyon na ito na hindi lang yung sex yung problema, it's the image of femininity because Sara Duterte doesn't receive the same kind of criticism as VP Leni. And Sara Duterte is known to be, she was known for punching a man in Davao. So again, when we're in that stage, I would say, or maybe not stage, we're in that situation where women or being a woman won't be taken against a woman if they would present themselves as a more masculine or with more masculine attributes. And I think that's something that we should keep talking about. We should keep working on.
So, Ms. Shine, since election season na nga po ngayon, in the upcoming 2022 presidential elections, why do you think should the last man standing be a woman?
Wow, big question. Big question. But here's the thing. Gusto kong mag-build dun sa sinabi ni Erwin kanina na we've had two woman presidents, okay? And we're actually, I think we score high in representation because a lot, if not almost half, a significant portion of our public officials are indeed women. We've celebrated this throughout the years, but I think the next layer to that question should be what have these women done for women in Philippine society? Because the symbol is one thing. The symbol that you have a woman leader is one thing, but the act and the service, ano bang nagawa nito para sa mga babae? Yun yung kailangan nating tignan. And with VP Leni, let me just cite what she herself said as her her biggest legacy, yung Angat Buhay initiative. It's a multifaceted approach to empowerment. It's a multifaceted approach to, again, yung pag-angat ng buhay. Kasi yun yung kailangan ma-address eh. Yun yung kailangan tignan natin. Kasi sanga-sanga yung mga problema na yan. Yung gender, again, kakabit siya ng class, kakabit siya ng culture. So, VP Lenny, just looking at the track record, not even looking at sex and gender, just the track record. When you look at what she's done, vis-a-vis what is expected of her. Remember that constitutionally, the vice president is not even expected to do anything unless she's given a cabinet or she's assigned to by the president. Pero siya, ang dami niyang nagawa. I think yun yung gusto kong pina-point out palagi
Mm.
eh. It's not just what she's done is not just for women but for Filipinos who have benefited from her programs. And I think that's one of her biggest strengths as a candidate talaga. It's the track record.
So, just to piggyback din po sa sinabi ninyo, Miss Shine, siguro, I see yung kay VP Lenny, di ba tinanggalan siya ng cabinet position, hindi siya, napakaliit ng budget ng office niya, and still, she was able to spearhead a lot of projects, dun sa Angat Buhay Foundation, yung mga initiatives niya during pandemic, she was able to do all that with very limited resources. And siguro it's just the mother in me talking, pero I see it as yung mga nanay natin na kahit walang-wala, gumagawa talaga ng paraan just to make ends meet,
Totoo.
just para 'di ba magawa yung mga kailangan gawin, mapunan lahat ng pangangailangan. That's how I see it eh. That's how I see it. Parang ewan ko, siguro nakikita ko sa kanya yung nanay ko na okay, since kulang tong resources natin ngayon, gagawa pa tayo ng paraan. Let's try selling some things or makiusap tayo kay ganito. Things like those. And I hope a lot of people see it that way as well.
Yun yung mapapaisip ka talaga, no? Of course, it's not uniform for every person, pero grabe, ano bang, ang daming nagagawa ng mga babae sa buhay natin. Yung nanay natin, diba? Yung lola natin. So parang, I always hate to go to that part of the conversation na wala ka bang kapatid, wala ka bang nanay, wala ka bang anak na babae. Kasi it's really just a matter of respect. And for you to think that some people don't deserve respect, that's a big red flag about values. So, ayun talaga yung gusto nating i-advocate. Although, I'm working on the patience part. Pero again, it's a matter of values. So, marami pang kailangan gawin. In short, no, to address all these issues in society.
Ang ganda nung sinabi ni Miss Shine. And I agree na kahit wala kang kapatid na babae or kahit wala kang nanay or kahit wala kang kapamilya na babae, di ba? You should respect, women and men. Kasi, di ba, tao, respeto mo sa tao yun eh. And that's non-negotiable. And siguro, for me, kung track record lang talagang VP Lenny is talagang by far the most qualified in the presidential race. And siguro, I think it's also a symptom of the way that women have to work twice or thrice as hard to be considered in the same level of a man, di ba?
Yes.
And very apparent yan in the presidential race.
I agree. I have no words for the frustration, alam mo yun, just the feels of being a woman in this age. Malayo na yung narating. Don't get me wrong. Malayo na yung narating. Okay? Marami nang nangyari. Marami na tayong pwedeng gawin na 50, 100 years ago, di natin pwedeng gawin. Pero marami pa rin kailangan mangyari. For the mechanisms to be in place, again, for mothers to have, for example, yung sa kanilang trabaho, mas magkaroon sila ng opportunity, no, to share parenting load and things like that. To close the gender pay gap in different sectors, basically, basagin na natin yung glass ceiling. 'Di ba? Ba't pa tayo nagho-hold back sa sa opportunities na binibigay natin. So, yeah, I'm just, uh, I want to be hopeful. That's what I want to say. I want to be hopeful, for the future, that makes it a better place for non male presenting actors in society, to be given that equal, hindi lang chances but yung pagtingin mismo, no, yung respeto mismo sa kanila bilang mga tao, at mag-translate sana yon, yung sinasabing respeto na yon, yung sinasabing paghanga na yon, admiration and respect, maniniwala ako diyan kapag nag-translate siya sa actual, policies and mechanisms that would really make life better for them.
Sobrang nag-resonate sa akin na nabanggit ni Miss Shine yung glass ceiling kasi, oh my God, yes! Totoo yan. As in, super talaga. Parang, if men did the bare minimum with their families, on the work, they get applauded for it. Pero kapag ka ang babae, you give everything you've got and it's still not enough. So, yes, kailangan talagang mangyari yon. But we still have a long way to go. Ayun nga yung sad part dun eh. But at still we are, kumbaga, starting something, 'di ba? Kahit papaano, we're seeing progress and I really hope na magtuloy-tuloy yung ganito. Kaya napakaganda yung napiling campaign color ni VP Leni eh. It gives us hope eh. She is really the symbol of hope.
Yes,
Kaya,
a very feminine color din ng pink, di ba?
yes, yes, 'di ba? Parang everybody perceives pink as parang yung iba na ayaw nila kasi it's very feminine and yun nga sinasabi ni Miss Shine kanina, it is being perceived as a weakness. Kaya nakakainis. Pero, thank you so much, Miss Shine. Ang dami-dami kong natutunan dito. I think
Ako
si
rin,
Erwin din, ang
super.
daming natutunan dito sa session na to. So, thank you so much po for giving us your time.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Miss
I'm
Shine.
privileged enough to be invited. So thanks, Erwin, for thinking about me.
Thank you, Shine. It was really our pleasure. Super daming learnings. And I hope mag-resonate din sa viewers natin na we really have a long way to go but we remain hopeful.
Yep, I agree. Can't agree more. Thank you. Thank you so much,
Thank
Bella and
you.
Erwin.
Thank you, Miss
Thank you
Shine.
din po, Miss Shine. Salamat po.
We really had a very productive episode with Miss Shine. What were the
True.
things that stuck out with you the most?
Siguro, yun nga yung last na sinabi niya. It's time to break the glass ceiling. Kasi parang somehow, I guess, men and women are given equal opportunities, lalo na sa trabaho. But the thing is, ang daming mga hindrance na or challenges na hinakaharap ng isang babae when it comes to work. Especially for a woman who wants to start a family. It, somehow it's being perceived as a weakness if you are or if you're a woman who wants to start a family. Kapag kabuntis ka, kapag ka babae ka lang kahit just the basis of gender eh. It is very hard. Ako kasi nararamdaman ko yun eh. Personally, you have to do a lot or you have to prove a lot of things sa trabaho and then when you get home to work, there are a lot of things that are expected from you. Kahit sa sarili kong dito sa sarili kong household, I experience na dapat ikaw yung nagluluto, dapat ikaw yung naglilinis, dapat ganito, ganyan, ganyan. And yet, I just come home from work. So parang, kaya nyo rin namang gawin yon. Do it. Most of the time, sa babae napupunta yung mental burden, yung mental burden wherein busy ka na sa trabaho, busy ka na sa pag-aalaga ng bahay, care work, housework, domestic work, and still you have to think of the things na kailangan mong asikasuhin sa mga susunod na araw. 'Di ba? So, kapag ka hindi mo din nagampanan yung mental burden na yan, things would start to fall apart eh. Kasi kailangan you plan things ahead. 'Di ba? Bilang babae, kailangan preemptive ka. Wherein, especially sa isang family, that's not expected sa isang lalaki eh. Ang expected lang sa isang lalaki is, bigay mo yung sahod mo sa asawa mo, let her do the work. 'Di ba? So, lahat ng burden nasa babae. And it's really time na we start talking or we talk more about it. Yun. So yun talaga yung pinaka nag-stuck sa akin.
Completely agree. And alam ko na it really resonated with you because you already have two children. And it's something that you experience every day, di ba? And I think it's also is a testament to the fact that we really expect so much from women. In fact, we expect more from women more than men. And it really baffles me bakit marami pa rin tao na hindi naniniwala na kaya ng babae. Kasi as you mentioned nga, we expect so much from mothers. We expect so much for women to give their all, di ba? Sa pag-aalaga ng bata, sa careers, kung may careers man. Or even sa, during the pandemic, sobrang laki sakripisyo ng mga nanay.
Sobrang agree ako dyan. Kaya ewan ko, sobrang malapit sa puso ko na tong episode natin na to.
Story ng buhay mo, charot.
Oo, oo, Diyos ko, parang iba yung mga natutunan ko from Miss Shine. Kaya nakakatuwa talaga.
Thank you guys for joining us on our fifth episode and see you on our next trip down the Rosas
Rosas
Boulevard.
Boulevard.